"Sir, my little brother is not breathing." The desperate beggar girl screamed to the millionaire, "Welcome to Alcott Stories, where every tale is a heartbeat waiting to be felt." Imagine this: a desperate little girl, her brother lifeless in her arms, screaming to a stranger in the rain, "Sir, my little brother is not breathing." What happens next will shatter your heart and stitch it back together. This is The Millionaire and the Beggar Girl. A story of love, betrayal, and a love so fierce it defies every odd. Subscribe now and dive into this emotional tsunami. Hit that bell for notifications, because, trust us, you won't want to miss a single chapter. And if this story moves you, share the magic. Someone out there needs this hope today. Welcome to Alcott Stories, where every click begins a journey. The sky wept relentlessly, its furious tears hammering against the pavement as thunder growled like a wounded beast, shaking the very bones of the city. Neon lights flickered through the downpour, casting ghostly reflections on the slick streets where hurried pedestrians ducked beneath umbrellas, their faces hidden, their hearts indifferent to the two small figures trembling on the sidewalk, a child clutching a lifeless baby, their tiny forms drowning in the storm's cruelty. Lily, just 5 years old, her golden hair plastered to her pale face, her blue eyes wide with a terror no child should ever know, screamed into the abyss of passing cars, her voice raw and breaking. "Sir, please, my little brother is not breathing." Her arms, frail and shaking, cradled Noah, his 6-month-old body limp, his lips tinged blue, his chest horrifyingly still. She had begged before, for food, for shelter, for someone to see her. But this was different. This was the end. The world blurred around her, the rain mixing with her tears as she collapsed to her knees, her brother's tiny body slipping from her numb fingers, until suddenly a shadow loomed over her, blocking the rain, and a deep, urgent voice cut through the chaos. "Give him to me. Now." Lily looked up, her vision swimming, and saw him, a tall man with dark skin, his expensive suit already ruined by the storm, his eyes sharp but impossibly kind. Marcus Carter. A millionaire, though she didn't know it, a man who could have driven past like the others. But he didn't. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands strong, steady, taking Noah from her trembling grasp, his fingers pressed against the baby's throat, his face hardening when he felt nothing. No pulse, no breath, just silence. "Get in the car," he ordered, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. And before Lily could process it, she was being lifted, carried, shoved into the warmth of a luxury vehicle she'd never seen before, the leather seats cold against her soaked dress. Marcus didn't wait. He laid Noah across the back seat, his hands flying into CPR, his breaths measured, desperate as the car roared to life, speeding through red lights, the driver's knuckles white on the wheel. Lily couldn't speak, couldn't think. She just stared at Marcus, at the way his jaw clenched with every compression, the way his voice never wavered as he growled. "Stay with me, little man. Stay with me." She didn't understand why he cared. No one ever cared. But then, a gasp, a weak, shuddering breath, Noah's tiny chest rose. Marcus exhaled sharply, his shoulders sagging for just a second before he snapped back into focus, checking the baby's pulse, his thumb brushing Noah's cheek. "He's back," he murmured, and Lily shattered. Sobs racked her body, her tiny hands clutching Marcus's sleeve, her words a broken whisper. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." But Marcus wasn't done. His eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, Lily saw something she hadn't seen in months. Hope. "What's your name?" he asked softly. Lily, she stammered. He nodded, his gaze flickering to Noah, then back to her. "Lily, I need you to be brave for me just a little longer. Can you do that?" She nodded, her tears still falling, but something inside her steadied. The car screeched to a halt outside the hospital, and Marcus was already moving, scooping Noah into his arms, pulling Lily close as they burst through the doors, his voice booming through the ER. "I need a doctor now!" Nurses scrambled, doctors rushed forward, and just before Noah was taken away, Lily caught Marcus's hand, her voice so small, so scared. "Will he be okay?" Marcus knelt, his hands warm on her shoulders, and for the first time since her parents died, Lily felt safe. "I promise," he said, and she believed him. But outside, unnoticed in the chaos, a shadow lingered. A woman in a sleek coat, her eyes narrowed, her phone pressed to her ear as she whispered. "I found them." The hospital's fluorescent lights burned Lily's exhausted eyes as she clung to Marcus's hand, her tiny fingers ice-cold against his warm grip, her body trembling, not just from the rain, but from the terror that still clawed at her chest. Noah had breathed just once, just enough. But what if he stopped again? What if the doctors couldn't fix him? The sterile white walls of the emergency room blurred around her as nurses rushed past, their voices sharp with urgency. And then, a hand on her shoulder. She flinched, her wide blue eyes darting up to see Marcus crouching beside her, his expensive suit jacket now draped over her like a shield against the world, his dark eyes softer than they'd been in the car, his voice a low, steady murmur. "They're helping him, Lily. Breathe with me, okay? In and out." She hiccuped, trying to mimic him, her lungs shuddering, but his thumb brushed away her tears with a gentleness that made her want to sob harder. Why was he being so kind? Strangers never were. Before she could ask, a doctor approached, his face unreadable, and Lily's heart stopped. "Mr. Carter?" the doctor began, and Marcus stood, his grip tightening on Lily's hand as if he sensed her panic. "The baby's stable," the doctor continued, and Lily's knees nearly buckled with relief until the man added, "But he's severely malnourished, dehydrated. We need to run more tests. And this little girl—" His gaze flicked to Lily, taking in her ragged clothes, the bruises on her wrists from nights spent curled on concrete. "She needs medical attention, too." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Do whatever it takes," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. But then the doctor hesitated. "Are you their guardian?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications, and Lily felt Marcus tense beside her. Because how could he answer that? He'd known them for 20 minutes. But then Lily, her voice barely a whisper, spoke up. "We don't have anyone else." The raw truth of it made Marcus's jaw clench, memories flashing behind his eyes. A younger brother, a fever too long ignored, a small grave in a poorer part of town. Not again. He met the doctor's gaze squarely. "For now, they're my responsibility." The doctor nodded, but as he turned away, a nurse muttered something about protocol and Hapurm, social services. And Marcus's stomach twisted. He knew what that meant. Red tape, foster care, Lily and Noah being torn apart. He couldn't let that happen. Guiding Lily to a chair, he knelt before her, his voice firm but gentle. "Lily, I need you to tell me everything. Where are your parents?" Her lower lip trembled, her fingers twisting in the too long sleeves of his jacket. "Gone," she whispered. "A car. It was loud, and then Mama and Daddy wouldn't wake up." Marcus's chest ached, orphaned. "And after that?" Lily's voice grew smaller. "A lady took us, said she was Auntie, but she didn't like us crying. She left us outside one day and never came back." Rage, hot and bitter, surged through Marcus, but he kept his voice calm. "How long have you been on your own?" Lily's answer shattered him. 3 moons. 3 months. A 5-year-old surviving on the streets with an infant. His throat tightened, but before he could respond, a commotion erupted at the ER entrance, a woman's shrill voice demanding entry. Lily's entire body froze. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts, her tiny hands fisting in Marcus's shirt. "No, no, no!" She whimpered, and Marcus followed her terrified gaze to see a sharply dressed woman storming toward them, her heels clicking like knives on tile, her face a mask of faux concern. "Lily! Oh, thank God!" the woman cried, but Lily flinched, backward, pressing into Marcus's chest. "That's Aunt Clara," Lily whispered, her voice trembling with something deeper than fear. Dread. Clara's eyes locked onto Marcus, her smile saccharine, but her gaze calculating. "You must be the kind stranger who brought them in. I've been searching, went everywhere for these poor darlings." Her hand reached for Lily, but the girl shrieked, burying her face in Marcus's neck. Something dark flickered in Clara's eyes, anger, before she forced another smile. "She's just overwhelmed. Come, Lily, let's get you cleaned up." Marcus blocked her. "Not so fast," he said, his voice deceptively calm, but his grip on Lily was protective, unyielding. "Lily seems frightened of you. Care to explain?" Clara's smile tightened. "Children exaggerate. I'm their only family." But then, a whimper from the hospital bed nearby. Noah's tiny hand twitched, his face scrunching as if sensing danger, and Lily lunged toward him, her cries desperate. "Noah needs me. Don't let her take us, please." The heart monitors beeping, spiked, nurses rushing in, but Clara's voice cut through the chaos. "This is ridiculous. I'm their legal guardian." Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from his lawyer. "Running their names now. Something's off. Stall her." He met Clara's gaze, his own like flint. "Prove it." Outside, the storm raged on. The hospital corridor became a battleground, the air thick with tension as Clara's polished nails dug into her designer purse, her saccharine smile cracking under Marcus's unflinching stare. "Prove it," he demanded, and now the weight of those 2 words hung between them like a guillotine's blade. Lily's whimpers were muffled against Marcus's shoulder, her tiny fists clutching his shirt as if he were the only anchor in a storm, while Noah's weak cries from the hospital bed behind them sent jagged bolts of urgency through Marcus's veins. Clara's laugh was too sharp, too practiced, as she rummaged through her bag. "Oh, for heaven's sake, do you think I'd lie about family?" But the tremor in her fingers betrayed her as she produced a crumpled document, a custody paper smudged and hastily notarized. Marcus snatched it, his eyes scanning the fine print, his lawyer's voice in his ear, through the phone still pressed to his shoulder. "Marcus, their parents' will specifies a trust for the kids. Clara only inherits if they're in her care at the time of the parents' anniversary. It's next week." The implication hit him like a punch. She didn't want them. She wanted the money. Across the room, Noah's monitor beeped erratically, nurses adjusting his IV as his tiny body fought to survive, and Lily, sensing the shift, peered up at Marcus with tear-swollen eyes, her whisper a blade to his heart. She left us in the rain. On purpose. Marcus's grip on the paper tightened, crumpling the edge. "This is dated after their parents' death," he growled, stepping closer to Clara, his voice dropping to a lethal calm. "Funny how you found them, just as their trust unlocks." Clara's mask slipped, her pupils dilated, her breath quickening. But she rallied, her voice shrill as she yanked her arm back. "How dare you? I've been searching for months." But then, a gasp from the nurse. Lily had lunged forward, her small hand snatching Clara's wrist, pushing up the woman's sleeve to reveal jewelry, a diamond bracelet, glinting under the hospital lights. "That's Mama's," Lily screamed, her voice raw with betrayal. "You took it from her when she was sleeping in the box." The room froze. The morgue. She'd stolen from their mother's corpse. Clara recoiled, her face twisting in panic, but it was too late. Marcus was already dialing the police, his other arm pulling Lily behind him as Clara's desperation turned venomous. "You have no right. They're nothing to you," she spat, but Marcus's response was ice. "They're everything now." The chaos erupted. Clara's shriek as security seized her, Noah's wails as a nurse stabilized him, Lily's trembling fingers gripping Marcus's belt loop like she feared he'd vanish. And then, beneath it all, the whispered plea that shattered Marcus's resolve. "Don't let them take us away. I can be good." He knelt, his hands framing her face, thumbs brushing away tears that kept falling. "Listen to me," he said, voice thick. "You're not going anywhere unsafe, not ever again." Behind them, the social worker arrived, her clipboard and tight smile setting Marcus's teeth on edge, but he stood, shielding Lily as the woman spoke. "Mr. Carter, without legal kinship, the state must place them in foster care." "No." The word was a vow. Marcus pulled out his phone, flashing the screen, a drafted emergency custody petition, his lawyer's name at the top. "Try me." Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, the first streaks of dawn bleeding through the clouds. But in that hospital room, a different storm brewed, one of paperwork and whispered phone calls, of Marcus's jaw clenching as he signed check after check to expedite DNA tests, to hire the best family lawyer in the city, to ensure Noah's medical team was top tier. And through it all, Lily's quiet observation. "You fight like Daddy did." Marcus paused, the pen trembling in his hand. "Yeah?" She nodded, her cheek pressed to his knee. "He said heroes don't need capes, just big hearts." The ache in Marcus's chest was unbearable. By midnight, the battle was half won. Clara arrested for fraud and theft, the custody hearing fast-tracked due to Noah's critical condition. But as Marcus slumped into the chair between their hospital beds, Lily curled against his side, and Noah's tiny fingers grasping his pinky. The real truth settled over him. This wasn't charity. It was fate. And when Lily's breath evened out in sleep, her whispered, "Don't go." Ghosting against his ribs, Marcus pressed a kiss to her hair and made the call that would change everything. "File the adoption papers." Outside the door, unnoticed, a reporter's camera flashed, the first salvo in the media war to come. The blinding flash of the camera outside the hospital room ignited a firestorm in Marcus's chest. Privacy shattered, innocence exploited, as the reporter's shrill voice pierced through the glass door. "Mr. Carter, Is it true you're using these orphans for publicity? Lily jolted awake in his arms, her blue eyes widening in fresh terror as she pressed into his chest, her tiny fingers digging into his shirt like claws. "They're back! They're gonna take us!" While Noah's monitors erupted in frantic beeps, his tiny body seizing under the stress as nurses rushed in, their voices sharp with urgency. "We need to sedate him! Too much stimulation!" Marcus's protective instincts roared to life, one hand cradling Lily's head to shield her from the chaos, the other slamming the privacy curtain shut with such force the metal rings shrieked, his voice a guttural command to the security team now swarming the hallway. "Get them out!" But the damage was done. The social worker, Ms. Greer, her pinched face all bureaucratic indifference, materialized with a clipboard clutched like a weapon, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "Mr. Carter, this is exactly why we have protocols. These children need stability, not media circuses." Marcus's laugh was razor-sharp as he gently pried Lily's trembling form from his neck, passing her to a kind-eyed nurse before squaring his shoulders, his 6'3" frame dwarfing Greer's as he stepped toe-to-toe with her, his whisper lethal. "You mean like the stability of foster care, where 60% of kids get abused?" Greer flinched, but Marcus wasn't finished. He yanked his phone out, thrusting the screen in her face, a live feed from his lawyer's office where Clara, now in custody, could be heard hissing to her attorney. "Those brats were supposed to disappear before the trust released." Greer's face drained of color, but Marcus was already turning away, his focus snapping back to Noah. Pale, too pale, as the pediatrician murmured grave words. "His lungs are underdeveloped from malnutrition. He needs the NICU." Lily, now hiccuping with silent sobs in the nurse's arms, reached out blindly for Marcus, her whisper a shattered plea. "Don't let them take Noah away from me, too." The raw fear in her voice unraveled something in Marcus's chest. Without hesitation, he strode to the nursing station, grabbed the intercom mic, and broadcast his voice across the entire pediatric wing. "Attention! My name is Marcus Carter. Any staff member who keeps reporters away from these children gets a $50,000 bonus. Tonight..." A stunned silence fell. Then the sound of running footsteps as every security guard in the hospital mobilized. But the true battle was just beginning. As Marcus sank into the chair between Lily and Noah's beds, his phone buzzed. A breaking news alert. The headline made his blood boil. "Millionaire kidnaps orphans. Aunt claims Carter brainwashed kids." The attached photo showed Clara's tear-streaked face on every major network, her performance worthy of an Oscar. Lily, peering at the screen over his arm, let out a whimper. "She's lying," before scrambling onto Marcus's lap, her tears soaking into his collar as she choked out the truth. "She told me if we ever talked, she'd make sure no one ever loved us." Marcus's arms tightened around her, his voice a vow against her hair. "She'll never touch you again." Across the room, Noah's tiny hand twitched, reaching, always reaching, and Marcus did something he hadn't done since his own brother's funeral. He prayed. Then his lawyer's call came through, with game-changing news. Clara wasn't the only one hiding secrets. The phone pressed against Marcus's ear felt like a live wire, his lawyer's voice crackling through with revelations that sent his world tilting on its axis. "Clara isn't just after the trust fund, Marcus. She's connected to the kid's parents' accident. Police found inconsistencies in the crash report, brake lines cut, a payoff to the coroner. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. The words slammed into Marcus like a physical blow, his grip tightening around Lily's small frame as she dozed against his chest, her breath hitching even in sleep, her nightmares no doubt filled with rain-soaked streets and a woman's cruel whispers. Across the room, Noah's monitors beeped a fragile rhythm, the neon glow painting his tiny face in ghostly hues, his survival hanging by a thread. Just like the truth. Marcus's mind raced. If Clara was willing to kill for money, what would she do to silence 2 children who could expose her? The answer coiled around his lungs like a vice, his gaze snapping to the hospital door where a shadow lingered. Too still, too patient. Were they being watched? His lawyer's voice sharpened. Marcus, listen, there's more. Lily's father was Dr. Daniel Whitmore, a biomedical researcher. He was developing a groundbreaking cancer drug before he died. Clara's financial records show a $2 million deposit from a pharmaceutical giant the week after the crash. The pieces clicked with horrifying clarity. This wasn't just about inheritance. It was corporate greed, a cover-up, and 2 children standing in the way. Marcus's pulse roared in his ears as he tightened his hold on Lily, her golden hair tickling his jaw, her trust in him absolute and terrifying. "We need to move them," he hissed into the phone, already calculating safe houses, private jets. But his lawyer interrupted. "No. Running makes you look guilty. The media's already painting you as a kidnapper. We fight back now." A file dinged on Marcus's phone, security footage from the night of the crash, time-stamped 2:37 a.m., showing Clara's silver Mercedes parked near the Whitmores' home. Proof, but proof meant nothing if Clara silenced them first. As if summoned, the heart monitor's steady beep stuttered, Noah's oxygen levels plummeting as a nurse gasped. "Code Blue!" The room exploded in chaos, doctors surging forward, shouting orders as Lily jerked awake, a scream piercing the air. "Noah!" as she fought Marcus's arms, her small fists pounding his chest in blind panic. Marcus's blood turned to ice. This wasn't a natural decline. He lunged for the IV bag, his trained eye catching what the medics missed. A tiny puncture mark in the tubing, a substance glistening where it shouldn't. "Stop the drip!" he roared, yanking the line from Noah's arm as a resident recoiled. "Mr. Carter, you can't interfere. It's poisoned." The accusation hung in the air, lethal and undeniable. The head nurse snatched the IV, her face hardening as she barked orders. "Toxicology stat! Lock down this floor." In the ensuing bedlam, Marcus clutched Lily to him, her tears hot against his neck, her whimpers a broken mantra. "Not Noah too, not Noah too." His phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Walk away, Carter, or the next dose goes in the girl." Rage, white-hot and primal, seared through Marcus's veins. They'd threatened his children. His response was a vow, typed with trembling fingers. "Try it, I'll bury you." Then, a miracle. Noah's weak cough, his tiny fingers twitching as the antidote, because of course Marcus had his own medical team on standby, fought the toxin. The pediatrician's voice shook. "He's stabilizing." Lily collapsed against Marcus, her relief a tangible thing, but his mind was already racing ahead. Clara had an accomplice, someone inside the hospital. His gaze swept the room, landing on a nervous orderly lingering too long by the door, his ID badge slightly crooked. A fake. Marcus moved on instinct, shoving Lily into the arms of the most trusted nurse, the one who'd sung lullabies to Noah, before lunging, his tackle sending the imposter crashing into the wall. The man's snarl was vicious. "You're dead, Carter!" Before he slammed a fire alarm, the blaring sirens masking his escape as he vanished into the stampede of evacuating staff. Chaos. Pure, unfiltered chaos. Amidst the screaming crowd, Marcus fought his way back to Lily, her tiny hand gripping his like a vice as they were herded outside into the parking lot, exposed, vulnerable. The night air reeked of gasoline and panic, the hospital's floodlights casting long shadows where anyone could hide. Then, tires screeching. A black van skidded to a halt just meters away, its door sliding open to reveal Clara's smirking face. "Time to come home, Lily," she crooned, her voice dripping with faux sweetness, but her eyes were black with malice. Lily's scream tore through the night. "No!" as Marcus shoved her behind him, his body a shield, his voice a roar. "Over my dead body." But Clara wasn't alone. Two men surged from the van, guns glinting under the streetlights. Marcus's heart stopped. He was unarmed, outnumbered, until gunshots. But not from Clara's men. Police swarmed the lot, their sirens a delayed wail as Clara's face twisted in rage. "This isn't over," she spat before the van peeled away, bullets pinging off its bumper. The lead detective, a grizzled man with sharp eyes, gripped Marcus's shoulder. "We've been tracking her. You just gave us enough for an arrest warrant." But Marcus barely heard him. Lily was sobbing into his shirt, her tiny body shaking like a leaf, while Noah's frail form was being loaded into an ambulance, his survival still uncertain. The detective's voice softened. "We can place you in protective custody." "No." Marcus's refusal was absolute. He lifted Lily into his arms, her legs wrapping around his waist like she'd never let go, and stared down the detective. "They stay with me. Always." As dawn broke, bleeding gold over the wreckage of the night, Marcus made two calls. The first, to his security team. "I want Clara Whitmore found. Today." The second, to his architect. "Demolish the east wing of my estate. We're building a pediatric ICU." Some battles couldn't be won with money. But love? Love was a weapon Clara had never understood. The rising sun painted the hospital parking lot in hues of molten gold as Marcus tightened his grip around Lily's trembling body, her tiny fingers clutching his shirt like she was drowning, her breath coming in ragged gasps against his neck, while the detective's words, "protective custody," hung between them like a death sentence. Protective custody meant separation. It meant faceless agents shuffling Lily and Noah through sterile safe houses, while Clara's network of shadows lurked in every corridor. And Marcus would be damned before he let these children out of his sight again. The detective, Officer Ruiz, his badge glinting under the dawn light, stepped closer, his voice dropping to a murmur meant only for Marcus's ears. "Carter, I get it. But Clara Whitmore has ties to the Velas Pharma cartel. These aren't people who miss twice." The name sent a jolt through Marcus. Velas, the same pharmaceutical giant that had paid Clara after the Whitmore's deaths. The puzzle pieces locked together with a sickening click. But before Marcus could respond, a weak cry cut through the chaos. "Noah." The ambulance doors were still open, the paramedics hovering as the baby's frail body convulsed, his oxygen levels plummeting again, the beeping of the monitors sharp as gunshots in the quiet lot. Lily jerked in Marcus's arms, her scream raw. "Noah!" as she fought to reach her brother, her small legs kicking against Marcus's ribs, her terror a living thing. Marcus didn't hesitate. He sprinted to the ambulance, Lily still in his arms, his voice a command that brooked no argument. "We're coming with him." The paramedics exchanged glances, but one look at Lily's tear-streaked face and Marcus's wildfire eyes had them nodding, helping them into the back where Noah lay, his tiny chest rising and falling too fast, his skin nearly translucent under the ambulance's harsh lights. Lily scrambled from Marcus's lap to Noah's side, her tiny hands hovering over his face like she could will him to breathe, her whisper a broken prayer. "Please, Noah, please." Marcus's phone buzzed. His lawyer again, the text flashing on the screen. "Judge approved emergency custody. You're their legal guardian for now. But Clara's lawyers are filing appeals as we speak." A temporary victory, but Marcus would take it. He reached out, his large hand covering both Lily's and Noah's, his thumb brushing the baby's fragile wrist. "Hang on, little man," he murmured, and for the first time in his life, Marcus Carter, the self-made millionaire who'd built empires on logic, prayed. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and tension, Lily's quiet sobs the only sound as Marcus's mind raced. Clara had resources, connections. She'd proven she could reach them even in a locked hospital. His penthouse wasn't safe. His offices weren't safe. Then, an idea. He pulled out his phone, dialing a number he hadn't used in years. The line picked up on the first ring, a gruff voice answering, "Carter, heard you've got trouble." Ethan Cole. Former Special Forces, now the head of the most elite private security firm in the country, and more importantly, Marcus's estranged best friend. The weight of their last argument, Ethan begging Marcus to slow down after his brother's death, Marcus throwing a whiskey glass at his head, hung between them. But right now, none of that mattered. "I need the Blackthorn Protocol," Marcus said, the words a code they'd made as reckless teenagers, a vow of absolute trust. A beat of silence then. "Done. Wheels up in 20. Where to?" Marcus glanced at Lily, her head now drooping with exhaustion against his arm, then at Noah's struggling form. "Haven House." Ethan's sharp inhale was audible. "You're bringing them there?" Marcus didn't flinch. "It's the only place she won't look." Haven House. Marcus's childhood home, a crumbling farmhouse in rural Vermont, where he'd buried his brother under an oak tree. A place he hadn't stepped foot in for 15 years, a place no one knew about. The ambulance screeched to a halt at a private airfield, where Ethan's team already waited beside a sleek jet, its engines humming. Transferring Noah's fragile form to the on-board medical team was agony. Lily refused to let go of his blanket, her tiny fists clenched as she marched up the steps beside Marcus, her voice trembling but fierce. "I'm staying with Noah, always." Marcus's throat tightened. "Always," he agreed, guiding her into the leather seat beside him as the jet taxied for takeoff. Outside the window, the city shrank away. But the danger didn't. Marcus's phone buzzed with a news alert. "Breaking! Millionaire Marcus Carter flees with orphans amid kidnapping allegations. Aunt Clara Whitmore demands justice." The attached photo showed Clara on the courthouse steps, her face the picture of grief, her designer black dress and pearls a stark contrast to the fake tears streaking her cheeks. Lily, peering at the screen, let out a whimper. "She's lying," before burying her face in Marcus's side, her next words muffled, but clear enough to shatter him. "Why does everyone believe her? Why does no one want us?" Marcus cupped her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Listen to me, Lily Whitmore. I want you. Not because I have to. Because you're mine now. And no one, not Clara, not the media, not the whole damn world, will ever take you from me again." The vow hung between them, thick and unbreakable, and for the first time since her parents died, Lily believed it. As the jet climbed above the clouds, Noah's vitals stabilized under the watchful eyes of the medics, his tiny fingers curling around Lily's pinky when she reached for him. Marcus exhaled, his body aching with exhaustion, but his mind already racing ahead. Clara would escalate. She'd spin the media. She'd send hunters. But what she didn't know, Marcus Carter had just gone to war, and he played dirtier than she ever could. Somewhere over Pennsylvania, Lily finally slept, her head pillowed on Marcus's chest, his jacket draped over her like armor. Outside the window, the first snow of winter began to fall. A clean slate, a frozen moment of peace before the storm. It wouldn't last. The private jet touched down on the snow-dusted Vermont airstrip with a whisper-soft jolt. But Marcus didn't stir from his vigil. Lily's head still lay heavy on his chest, her eyelashes fluttering with exhausted dreams, while Noah slept swaddled in a nest of blankets across the aisle, his tiny chest rising and falling in time with the rhythmic beep of the portable monitor. Outside the window, the pre-dawn light painted the world in shades of blue and silver, the pine trees standing sentinel over the forgotten farmhouse at the edge of the field. Haven House, its peeling white shutters and wraparound porch exactly as Marcus had left it 15 years ago, the place where he'd buried his baby brother under the old oak, where he'd sworn never to return. But now, with Lily's warmth seeping into his side and Noah's soft sighs filling the cabin, the ghosts of his past seemed less like hauntings and more like guides. The jet's door hissed open, letting in a burst of frigid air, and Ethan Cole appeared in the doorway, his military short hair dusted with snowflakes, his sharp eyes scanning the scene before landing on Marcus. "You look like hell," he muttered, but the way his calloused hand lingered on Lily's hair, tucking the blanket tighter around her, betrayed his real concern. Marcus eased Lily onto the seat beside him, pressing a kiss to her forehead before standing. His muscles screamed from hours of tension, and met Ethan's gaze. "Clara!" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Gone to ground. But her lawyers are screaming to every media outlet that you kidnapped the kids. It's a circus." He handed Marcus a tablet. The screen showed live news footage of Clara sobbing on CNN, her perfect mascara streaking as she clutched a faded photo of Lily and Noah. "They were all I had left of my sister," she wailed, and Marcus's grip on the tablet turned lethal. The audacity, the lies. But before he could react, a small hand tugged his sleeve. Lily, awake now, her blue eyes fixed on the screen, her face pale. "She's lying," Lily whispered, but it was the way her tiny body trembled that undid Marcus. He dropped to his knees, pulling her close. "I know, sweetheart, and we'll prove it." Ethan cleared his throat, nodding toward the farmhouse. "Place is secure. Medical bays set up in the master bedroom, and I had the team put fresh flowers by Jamie's tree." The unspoken kindness, the acknowledgement of Marcus's little brother, gone at just 6 years old from a fever that could have been treated if they'd had the money, lodged in Marcus's throat. He could only nod as he lifted Lily into his arms, her sleepy head nestling against his shoulder, and followed Ethan down the jet's steps into the snow. The farmhouse was a time capsule, the creak of the porch boards underfoot, the scent of pine and old books wrapping around them as they stepped inside. But the updates were unmistakable. Bulletproof glass behind the vintage curtains, state-of-the-art surveillance disguised as rustic decor, and a team of ex-Special Forces medics waiting to take Noah from the flight crew. Lily, suddenly alert, lunged for her brother. "No! Don't take him!" her scream echoing off the exposed wooden beams. Marcus caught her just as one of the medics, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense ponytail, knelt to Lily's level. "Hey, warrior princess," she said, tapping the stethoscope around her neck. "I'm Dr. Ray. Your brother's gonna be right upstairs, and you can sit with him the whole time. Deal?" Lily's lower lip trembled, but she nodded, her grip on Marcus's hand bone-crushing as they followed the team up the creaking staircase. The master bedroom had been transformed. A pediatric ICU unit dominated the space, its machines humming softly. But the touches of home were everywhere. A rocking chair by the fireplace, a stack of picture books on the nightstand, and, Marcus's breath hitched, a framed photo of Jamie on the dresser, his gap-toothed grin frozen in time. Lily didn't miss it. "Who's that?" she asked, pointing, and Marcus forced the words past the lump in his throat. "My little brother. He would have loved you." Lily studied the photo, then reached up to pat Marcus's stubbled cheek with heartbreaking solemnity. "I'll be your brother now." It was too much. Marcus had to turn away, busying himself with adjusting Noah's blankets as the medics worked, but Ethan's hand on his shoulder grounded him. "We need to talk," he murmured, steering Marcus into the hallway. The second the door closed, Ethan's demeanor shifted. All business. Clara's not acting alone. Veles Farmers' CEO, Richard Caney, just held a press conference demanding federal intervention to return the stolen children. He handed Marcus another tablet. This one showed a silver-haired man in a $10,000 suit, his voice oozing faux concern as he spoke to reporters. "Doctor, Whitmore's research was a gift to humanity. We simply want to ensure his legacy and his children are protected." Marcus's blood ran cold. "He's after the research." "Bingo," Ethan confirmed. "Whitmore's notes mention a Lilly protocol, some kind of gene therapy breakthrough. The lab was destroyed in the fire that killed him and his wife. But—" He trailed off, eyes flicking toward the bedroom, where Lily now sat by Noah's bedside, singing a lullaby under her breath. The pieces clicked. "They think she knows where it is," Marcus breathed. Ethan's nod was grim. "And they'll kill to get it." As if on cue, Marcus's phone buzzed, an encrypted message from his lawyer. "Just got off the phone with the DA. Clara's filing for custody in 48 hours, and Marcus, she's bringing proof. The kids aren't really the Whitmores." The game had just changed. Marcus stared at Lily through the cracked door, at the way her tiny hand held Noah's, at the stuffed rabbit she'd tucked under his arm, and made a decision. "Ethan, I need everything on Caney, every skeleton, every dirty deal." Ethan smirked. "Already on it? But you realize what it all means. You're not just protecting 2 kids now. You're going toe-to-toe with a billion-dollar corporation." Marcus didn't hesitate. Let them come. Outside, the snow fell harder, blanketing the world in silence. Inside, Lily's lullaby drifted through the old farmhouse, a fragile, beautiful sound in the gathering storm. Somewhere in the shadows, Clara Whitmore checked her watch. The clock was ticking. The grandfather clock in Haven House's foyer struck midnight with a hollow groan, each chime vibrating through the old floorboards like a warning as Marcus paced the length of the study. The firelight casting monstrous shadows on the walls, lined with leather-bound books he hadn't touched since childhood. Ethan's dossier on Richard Kane lay splayed across the oak desk, the photos and documents a spiderweb of corruption, offshore accounts, blackmail victims, a suspicious fire at a rival lab years ago that bore an uncanny resemblance to the Whitmore tragedy. Marcus's fingers trembled as he lifted a grainy surveillance photo. Kane meeting Clara at a dimly lit restaurant 6 months before the Whitmore's deaths, her manicured hand passing him a flash drive, his reptilian smile as he pocketed it. "You were planning this from the beginning," Marcus whispered to the empty room, the weight of the revelation pressing against his ribs like a physical thing. But before he could process further, a whimper sliced through the silence. Lily. He was moving before his brain caught up, taking the stairs 2 at a time, his socked feet silent on the worn wood, the master bedroom door creaking open to reveal Lily thrashing in the armchair beside Noah's medical crib, her golden hair plastered to her damp forehead, her tiny fists clawing at invisible demons as she choked out fragmented pleas. "No, Aunt Clara, don't make me. I won't tell. I promise." While Noah's monitors spiked in sympathetic distress, his tiny face scrunching as if sensing his sister's torment even in sleep. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, gathering Lily into his arms just as her eyes flew open, wild and unseeing for one terrifying second before focusing on his face. "Marcus." Her voice was so small, so shattered, that something inside him cracked open. "I'm here, sweetheart," he murmured, tucking her against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat, the way his mother had done for him after Jamie's nightmares. Was it the bad dream again? Lily nodded, her tears soaking into his shirt as she fisted the fabric like a lifeline. She was hurting Noah. She said it was my fault for telling secrets. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Secrets. But he kept his voice steady, rocking her gently. "What secrets, Lilybug?" The nickname slipped out unbidden, something Jamie had called his favorite stuffed animal, and Lily hiccuped, her tiny body curling tighter into his. The special medicine," she whispered, her breath hot against his collarbone. "Daddy hid it in my—" A floorboard creaked outside the door. Marcus's head snapped up, his body tensing as he met Dr. Ray's startled gaze from across the room. She'd heard it, too. In one fluid motion, he passed Lily to her, his voice barely audible. It was too much. Marcus had to turn away, busying himself with adjusting Noah's blankets as the medics worked, but Ethan's hand on his shoulder grounded him. "We need to talk," he murmured, steering Marcus into the hallway. The second the door closed, Ethan's demeanor shifted. All business. Clara's not acting alone. Veles Farmers' CEO, Richard Kane, just held a press conference demanding federal intervention to return the stolen children. He handed Marcus another tablet. This one showed a silver-haired man in a $10,000 suit, his voice oozing faux concern as he spoke to reporters. "Doctor, Whitmore's research was a gift to humanity. We simply want to ensure his legacy and his children are protected." Marcus's blood ran cold. "He's after the research." "Bingo," Ethan confirmed. Whitmore's notes mention a Lily protocol, some kind of gene therapy breakthrough. The lab was destroyed in the fire that killed him and his wife. but he trailed off, eyes flicking toward the bedroom where Lily now sat by Noah's bedside, singing a lullaby under her breath. The pieces clicked. "They think she knows where it is," Marcus breathed. Ethan's nod was grim. "And they'll kill to get it." As if on cue, Marcus's phone buzzed, an encrypted message from his lawyer. "Just got off the phone with the DA. Clara's filing for custody in 48 hours, and Marcus, she's bringing proof. The kids aren't really the Whitmores." The game had just changed. Marcus stared at Lily through the cracked door, at the way her tiny hand held Noah's, at the stuffed rabbit she'd tucked under his arm, and made a decision. "Ethan, I need everything on Caney, every skeleton, every dirty deal." Ethan smirked. "Already on it? But you realize what it all means. You're not just protecting 2 kids now. You're going toe-to-toe with a billion-dollar corporation." Marcus didn't hesitate. Let them come. Outside, the snow fell harder, blanketing the world in silence. Inside, Lily's lullaby drifted through the old farmhouse, a fragile, beautiful sound in the gathering storm. Somewhere in the shadows, Clara Whitmore checked her watch. The clock was ticking. The grandfather clock in Haven House's foyer struck midnight with a hollow groan, each chime vibrating through the old floorboards like a warning as Marcus paced the length of the study. The firelight casting monstrous shadows on the walls, lined with leather-bound books he hadn't touched since childhood. Ethan's dossier on Richard Caney lay splayed across the oak desk, the photos and documents a spiderweb of corruption, offshore accounts, blackmail victims, a suspicious fire at a rival lab years ago that bore an uncanny resemblance to the Whitmore tragedy. Marcus's fingers trembled as he lifted a grainy surveillance photo. Caney meeting Clara at a dimly lit restaurant 6 months before the Whitmore's deaths, her manicured hand passing him a flash drive, his reptilian smile as he pocketed it. "You were planning this from the beginning," Marcus whispered to the empty room, the weight of the revelation pressing against his ribs like a physical thing. But before he could process further, a whimper sliced through the silence. "Lily." He was moving before his brain caught up, taking the stairs 2 at a time, his socked feet silent on the worn wood, the master bedroom door creaking open to reveal Lily thrashing in the armchair beside Noah's medical crib, her golden hair plastered to her damp forehead, her tiny fists clawing at invisible demons as she choked out fragmented pleas. "No, Aunt Clara, don't make me. I won't tell. I promise." While Noah's monitors spiked in sympathetic distress, his tiny face scrunching as if sensing his sister's torment even in sleep. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, gathering Lily into his arms just as her eyes flew open, wild and unseeing for one terrifying second before focusing on his face. "Marcus." Her voice was so small, so shattered, that something inside him cracked open. "I'm here, sweetheart," he murmured, tucking her against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat, the way his mother had done for him after Jamie's nightmares. Was it the bad dream again? Lily nodded, her tears soaking into his shirt as she fisted the fabric like a lifeline. She was hurting Noah. She said it was my fault for telling secrets. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Secrets. But he kept his voice steady, rocking her gently. "What secrets, Lilybug?" The nickname slipped out unbidden, something Jamie had called his favorite stuffed animal, and Lily hiccuped, her tiny body curling tighter into his. The special medicine," she whispered, her breath hot against his collarbone. "Daddy hid it in my A floorboard creaked outside the door. Marcus's head snapped up, his body tensing as he met Dr. Ray's startled gaze from across the room. She'd heard it, too. In one fluid motion, he passed Lily to her, his voice barely audible. "Take them into the panic room. Now." The doctor didn't hesitate, scooping Noah from his crib with practiced ease while Lily reached back for Marcus, her whimper cutting deeper than any blade. "Don't go!" But he pressed a kiss to her forehead, his promise fierce. "I'll be right back." The second the hidden bookshelf door sealed shut behind them, Marcus palmed the hunting knife from his boot and moved soundlessly into the hallway, the old house groaning around him like a living thing. The intruder was good, almost professional. But Haven House had secrets even Marcus was still rediscovering. He caught the flicker of movement at the end of the hall, the faintest scuff of boots on hardwood, and then a glint of metal. Marcus lunged, his knife flashing as he pinned the figure against the wall, his forearm braced against their throat, only to freeze when the intruder's hood fell back, revealing a woman's face, her dark eyes wide with recognition. "Daniel sent me," she gasped, and Marcus's grip slackened just enough for her to continue. "Dr. Whitmore, before he died. I'm Sarah Chen, his lab partner. Clara doesn't know I exist." She reached into her jacket, moving slowly, and withdrew a sealed envelope. Daniel Whitmore's looping handwriting on the front. "If found, deliver to Marcus Carter only." Marcus's pulse roared. "How the hell did you find us?" Sarah's smile was grim. Daniel had trackers on his children, implanted at birth. Lily's is in her left molar, Noah's in his... A gunshot shattered the window behind them. Marcus tackled Sarah to the ground as glass rained down, the bullet embedding in the wall where his head had been. Outside, shadows moved through the blizzard. 4 armed figures, their silhouettes barely visible in the swirling snow. "Ethan!" Marcus bellowed, knowing his friend's team would be mobilizing, but Sarah was already dragging him toward the study. "The will!" she hissed, shoving the envelope at him. "It's all in here. The truth about the research. Why Clara and Caney really want the kids." Another gunshot. Closer this time. Marcus ripped open the envelope with his teeth, his eyes scanning the handwritten pages feverishly. Daniel's last testament, dated the night before his death. The words blurred as he reached the crux. "If you're reading this, Marcus, then my worst fears came true. The Lilly protocol isn't just a cancer treatment. It's a universal donor cell that could end the organ transplant industry. Caney offered me billions to bury it. When I refused, he threatened my family. I'm sending Sarah with copies of my research, but the master key is with Lily. She doesn't know it, but the lullaby I sang her, it's a cipher. The numbers correspond to a safe deposit box in Zurich. Protect them, Marcus, not just for me, for the millions who'll die if Caney wins." A child's scream tore through the house. "Lily!" Marcus was sprinting before the echo faded, the documents clutched in his fist, his heart hammering against his ribs like a caged beast. He skidded into the master bedroom just as the hidden bookshelf door swung open. Dr. Ray stood frozen, her face ashen, while Lily sobbed in her arms, her tiny fingers clutching at the empty space where Noah's crib had been. "They took him!" Lily wailed, her voice raw with terror. "The bad men took Noah." Marcus's vision went red at the edges. He whirled to the shattered window. Tire tracks in the snow, leading toward the tree line. But it was the single item left on Noah's stripped bed that stopped his heart. A business card. Richard Kane, CEO, Veles Pharmaceuticals, and scribbled beneath, in Clara's unmistakable hand, "Bring Lily to the old Whitmore lab by dawn, or the baby dies." The storm inside Marcus eclipsed the blizzard outside. He dropped to his knees, gathering Lily into his arms as her tears soaked through his shirt, her tiny body shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. "We'll get him back," he vowed, his voice guttural with a promise that went beyond words. "No matter what it takes." Sarah appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. "It's a trap." Marcus's smile was all teeth. "Good." He pressed a kiss to Lily's hair, his next words a whisper against her temple. "Daddy's going to teach you a special song, okay? One that's going to help us save Noah." Outside, the wind howled like a living thing. Dawn was coming. The pre-dawn darkness clung to the walls of Haven House like a living thing, the only light coming from the flickering fireplace as Marcus knelt before Lily, her tear-streaked face illuminated in the orange glow, her tiny hands clutching his like she was afraid he'd vanish if she let go. "The song, Lily," Marcus urged, his voice low but urgent, his thumb brushing away the tears that kept falling as he hummed the first notes of the lullaby Daniel had described in his letter. The melody simple but haunting. The kind of tune that burrowed into your bones and stayed there. Lily's breath hitched, her blue eyes widening. "You know Daddy's song," her voice trembling with something between hope and disbelief, and Marcus nodded, his chest tight as he whispered, "He wanted me to sing it with you. Can you remember the numbers, sweetheart? The ones he taught you to count with the stars?" For a heartbeat, Lily just stared at him, her lower lip quivering, and Marcus feared she'd shut down. But then, like a dam breaking, she began to sing, her voice so soft it barely carried over the crackling fire, the words nonsensical at first. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." But then, as if something unlocked in her memory, she paused, her tiny fingers tightening around his. "Daddy said the numbers were secret, like a game." She closed her eyes, her brow furrowing in concentration, and then, haltingly, she recited a string of digits. 17, 3 dots, 42.9.8, each number punctuated by a sniffle, her trust in him absolute even as her world crumbled around her. Marcus committed them to memory, his pulse roaring in his ears. This was it, the key to Daniel's research, the reason Clara and Caney would kill for it. Across the room, Ethan's phone buzzed, a message from his team tracking Noah's abduction. They're heading toward the old Whitmore lab, just like Clara said. But Marcus, it's a fortress. Armed guards, surveillance, the works. His jaw clenched as he met Marcus's gaze. "We can't storm it head-on, not with Noah inside." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Then we play their game." He turned back to Lily, cupping her face in his hands. "Lilybug, I need you to be brave for me one more time. We're going to get Noah back, but you have to trust me, okay?" Her nod was immediate, her tiny chin jutting out with a determination that mirrored his own. "I'll be brave," she whispered, and Marcus's heart swelled, even as it shattered. This child, this fierce, broken, beautiful child, deserved so much more than this. The plan came together in minutes. Sarah would take the numbers to Daniel's contact in Zurich, retrieving the research, while Marcus and Ethan staged a surrender. They'd let Clara think she'd won. Lily would be their bargaining chip, her presence the only thing keeping Clara from harming Noah. But what Clara didn't know was that Marcus had spent the last hour sewing a micro-tracker into the hem of Lily's dress, its signal linked to Ethan's team, who'd be waiting for Marcus's signal to strike. As dawn's first light crept over the horizon, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold, Marcus carried Lily to the car, her arms wrapped around his neck, her breath warm against his skin. "Will Noah be scared?" she asked, her voice small, and Marcus pressed a kiss to her temple. "Not for long. We're coming for him." The drive to the Whitmore lab was a blur of tension. Lily dozed fitfully in the back seat, her head pillowed on Marcus's jacket, while Ethan navigated the icy roads with grim focus. The lab loomed ahead, a monolithic structure of glass and steel, its windows dark, its parking lot empty save for a single black van. Clara's. Marcus's grip on the steering wheel turned his knuckles white. "Remember," Ethan muttered, checking his sidearm, "we play this smart. Noah comes first." Marcus nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. Clara had made one fatal mistake. She'd underestimated what a man with nothing left to lose was capable of. The lab doors slid open as they approached, revealing Clara standing in the sterile white hallway, her designer heels clicking against the tile, her smile razor-sharp. "Marcus, so good of you to finally join us." Her gaze flicked to Lily, still half asleep in Marcus's arms, and something dark flickered in her eyes. "Triumph. And you brought my niece. How cooperative." Marcus didn't rise to the bait. "Where's Noah?" Clara's smile widened. "Safe. For now." She turned on her heel, gesturing for them to follow. "Richard is eager to meet you." The lab's inner sanctum was a nightmare. Monitors displaying live feeds of Noah strapped to a medical table, his tiny form dwarfed by the machines around him, while Richard Caney stood over him like a vulture, his silver hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Ah, Mr. Carter," he said, his voice slick with false warmth. "We've been expecting you." Lily stirred in Marcus's arms, her sleepy eyes focusing on Noah. And then, with a shriek that tore through the room, she lunged. "Noah!" All hell broke loose. Clara moved to intercept her, but Marcus was faster. He shoved Clara aside, his voice a roar as he charged Caney. "You touch him, and I'll end you." Caney barely flinched. "Brave words, but you're outnumbered, Mr. Carter." He nodded to the armed guards emerging from the shadows, 6 of them, guns trained on Marcus and Ethan. It was a standoff. And then Lily's voice, clear as a bell, singing Daniel's lullaby. Caney's face went slack with shock. "Where did she learn that?" Marcus smiled. "From her father, who sends his regards." The explosion rocked the building. Ethan's team had blown the east wall, the distraction they needed. In the chaos, Marcus lunged for Noah, freeing him from the restraints as Ethan covered them, his gunfire driving the guards back. Lily clung to Marcus's leg, her sobs muffled against his jeans. But her voice never wavered. She kept singing, the numbers weaving through the melody like a lifeline. Caney's scream of rage was cut short as Sarah appeared in the doorway, a USB drive in one hand, a gun in the other. "The research is safe, Richard. And so are the children." Clara's snarl was animalistic. "You'll never win, Carter. They'll never let you keep them." Marcus didn't even glance at her as he gathered Lily and Noah into his arms, his voice a vow. "Watch me." Outside, the rising sun painted the sky in hues of victory. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, Marcus knew they'd win. The morning sun streamed through the courthouse windows, painting the mahogany benches in golden light as Marcus adjusted his tie for the 12th time. His usual composure shattered by the weight of the day ahead, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and nervous sweat, the murmur of the packed gallery a constant hum beneath the judge's stern voice. Across the aisle, Clara sat perfectly poised in a tailored black dress, her hands folded delicately in her lap, her face the picture of grieving devotion. A masterpiece of lies, while her lawyer, a slick-haired shark in a $3,000 suit, leaned over to whisper something that made her lips curl in satisfaction. Marcus's knuckles whitened around the edge of the bench, his gaze flicking to the side door where Lily and Noah waited with Dr. Ray, his children, though the law hadn't yet agreed, their futures hanging on the next hour's proceedings. The media circus outside had reached fever pitch, cameras flashing like lightning through the stained glass windows, headlines already drafted in favor of Clara's carefully crafted narrative. Heartless millionaire, Barus' grieving aunt, who really loves these orphans. The bailiff's voice boomed, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Morales," and the room surged to its feet as the judge entered, her robes swirling around her like a storm cloud, her sharp eyes missing nothing as she surveyed the courtroom. Marcus's lawyer, Amanda Pierce, a firebrand with a 90% win rate, gave his arm a reassuring squeeze. "Remember, let Clara hang herself. She'll crack under cross." But Marcus barely heard her over the roaring in his ears. This wasn't just a custody battle anymore. It was war. Caney's arrest 2 days prior had sent shockwaves through the pharmaceutical world, his empire crumbling under the weight of Daniel's research, now safely in the hands of the FDA. But Clara, ever the survivor, had distanced herself just enough to play the victim. "Ready?" Amanda murmured, and Marcus nodded, his jaw set. He'd burn the system to the ground before he let Clara near Lily and Noah again. The hearing began with Clara's lawyer painting Marcus as a reckless billionaire who'd kidnapped the children for publicity, his dramatic rescue at the lab framed as a dangerous stunt. My client only wanted to protect her niece and nephew from this man's instability. But Amanda's counter was swift, her voice dripping with disdain as she presented evidence, the falsified custody papers, the stolen jewelry, the damning recording of Clara admitting she'd left the children to die. The gallery erupted in gasps, but Clara didn't flinch. Her mask was flawless until Amanda played the final card. "Your Honor, we call Lily Whitmore to the stand." A hush fell as the side door opened and Lily appeared, her tiny frame nearly swallowed by the oversized witness chair, her golden hair braided neatly. Marcus had done it himself that morning, his hands trembling, her blue eyes wide but determined. The judge softened, leaning down. "You can speak into this microphone, sweetheart. Just tell us the truth." Lily nodded, her fingers clutching the stuffed rabbit Marcus had bought her. Mr. Hops, and when Amanda asked the first question, "Lily, do you want to live with your Aunt Clara?" The silence was absolute. Lily's lower lip trembled, her gaze darting to Marcus, and in that heartbeat he thought his chest might explode. What if she was too scared? What if Clara's threats still held her tongue? Then, no. Lily's voice was small, but clear. "Aunt Clara hurts people." Clara's chair screeched as she shot to her feet. "She's lying. She's been brainwashed." The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Sit down," Amanda pressed on gently. "Lily, can you tell us about the day Marcus found you?" And then The dam broke. Lily's words spilled out in a rush, her tears flowing freely as she described the rain, the car, Noah's blue lips, Marcus's hands warm and sure as he breathed life back into her brother. "He sang to me when I had bad dreams," she whispered, wiping her nose on Mr. Hopps's ear. "And he lets me put band-aids on his ouchies, even when they're not bleeding." The gallery collectively melted, but it was her next words that sealed it. "He's my daddy now. The judge can ask Noah too. He says Mama and Dada, and he means us." Clara's facade cracked. "This is ridiculous. A child's fantasy," she hissed, but the judge ignored her, her eyes on Marcus. "Mr. Carter, anything to add?" He stood slowly, his voice rough with emotion. "Only that I'd die before I let them feel unloved again." The room held its breath as Judge Morales shuffled her papers. Then, with a finality that echoed through Marcus's bones, she spoke. "Temporary custody is granted to Marcus Carter, pending final adoption proceedings. Court adjourned." Clara's scream of rage was drowned out by the gallery's cheers. Lily launched herself into Marcus's arms, her tears hot against his neck as he lifted her high, his own eyes burning. They'd won. But as he turned to leave, Clara's whisper slithered after him. "This isn't over." Marcus didn't look back. Outside, the sunlight was blinding, the cameras swarming like vultures, but Marcus shielded Lily's face as he pushed through, his focus only on the car where Noah waited, babbling happily in Dr. Ray's arms. His family. As the car door closed, sealing them in blessed quiet, Lily peered up at him. "Do we get to stay forever now?" Marcus kissed her forehead, his heart too full for words. Forever and always. Somewhere in the shadows, a phone buzzed with a text. "Phase 2 begins now." The heavy oak door of the courthouse swung shut behind them, muffling the chaos of reporters still shouting questions and cameras flashing like relentless strobe lights. But Marcus barely registered the noise. His entire world had narrowed to the weight of Lily in his arms, her face buried in his neck, her tiny fingers clutching the lapels of his suit jacket like he might vanish if she let go. While Noah babbled happily in Dr. Ray's arms beside them, his chubby hands reaching for Marcus. The word "Dada" bursting from his lips with innocent certainty that made Marcus's throat tighten. The black SUV idled at the curb, Ethan already holding the door open, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd for threats. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus allowed himself to exhale. They'd won. The judge's gavel had sealed it. Temporary custody granted to Marcus Carter, pending adoption. The legal battle wasn't fully over, but this was the first sunrise after a long, harrowing night. The drive home. No, not home, their home, Marcus corrected himself, the word still foreign and wondrous on his tongue, was quiet, the tinted windows shielding them from prying eyes as Lily peered out at the passing city, her breath fogging the glass. "Is Aunt Clara gone forever?" she asked suddenly, her voice small, but edged with a hardness no 5-year-old should possess, and Marcus reached over, his hand covering hers. "She can't hurt you again," he promised, his thumb brushing the faint scar on her wrist where Clara had once grabbed her too hard. "But if she tries, I'll be here, always." Lily studied him for a long moment, her blue eyes searching his face like she was memorizing it, before nodding solemnly and whispering, "Okay, Daddy," the title slipping out so naturally it stole Marcus's breath away. In the rear-view mirror, Ethan's smirk was audible. "Told you you'd crack before they did." Haven House welcomed them like an old friend, its wraparound porch now strung with fairy lights, courtesy of Ethan's sentimentality. The scent of cinnamon rolls baking, courtesy of Dr. Ray's insistence that orphans need comfort food, wrapping around them as they stepped inside. The transformation was staggering. What had once been a relic of Marcus's grief was now alive with colour. Noah's toys scattered across the rug, Lily's drawings taped haphazardly to the fridge, the master bedroom converted into a makeshift nursery with a crib beside Marcus's bed. Their home. Lily sprinted to her room. I got to show Mr. Hops the papers, while Marcus settled Noah into the high chair, the baby giggling as he smeared mashed bananas everywhere, his cheeks round and healthy now, no trace of the frail infant from months ago. Dr. Ray handed Marcus a coffee, her voice low. His last blood work was perfect. Whatever Clara dosed him with at the lab is out of his system. Marcus nodded, but his gaze drifted to the stack of unopened mail on the counter. The top envelope bore the insignia of the Boston Globe. Inside, a clipping of Clara's latest interview. "I'll fight for my family until my last breath," she'd declared, her photo all calculated vulnerability. Marcus crumpled it, tossing it into the fire, where it blackened and curled like the lies it carried. The next weeks passed in a blissful haze, mornings spent teaching Lily to ride a bike, her squeals of laughter echoing across the property. Afternoons with Noah napping on Marcus's chest as he worked, evenings where the three of them curled up on the couch, Lily reading picture books to Noah with dramatic flair. But beneath the peace, Marcus's instincts prickled. Clara's silence was too complete. Then, on a crisp autumn afternoon, the proof arrived, a surveillance alert from Ethan. Clara's lawyered up with Robert Kane, Richard's brother. Nasty piece of work. They're filing an appeal based on coercion of a minor, claiming you manipulated Lily's testimony. The attached legal brief made Marcus's blood boil. They were using Lily's trauma against her. That night, as Marcus tucked Lily into bed, she sensed his tension, her small hand patting his stubbled cheek. "You're doing the face," she informed him, her nose scrunched in imitation of his scowl. "I'm gonna fight the bad guys' face." Marcus huffed a laugh, kissing her forehead. "What if I told you there might be one more fight?" Lily considered this, then reached under her pillow, producing a crumpled drawing, a stick figure, Marcus with a sword, standing between a frowning Clara and a smiling Lily and Noah. "I'm ready," she declared, and Marcus's heart swelled. The next morning, Marcus sat at his desk, flanked by Amanda and Ethan. The plans for Noah's hope spread before them. A foundation to fund medical care for homeless children, its logo a rainbow over a tiny handprint. "We go public with this," Amanda said, tapping the blueprint. "Flood the media with the truth before Clara can spin her appeal. Let the world see who these kids really belong to." And so, on a golden October day, Marcus held a press conference on Haven House's lawn, Lily clutching his hand, Noah perched on his hip. "This isn't just about me," he told the cameras, his voice steady. "It's about every child who's ever been failed by the system." Then, unprompted, Lily stepped forward, her voice clear as a bell. "My daddy saved us. And now we're gonna save other kids too." The video went viral within hours. That night, as Marcus tucked Noah into his crib, the baby sighed. "Love you, Dada," his first full sentence. Marcus froze, then pressed a trembling kiss to his curls. This was worth every battle. Downstairs, the phone rang. Amanda's triumphant voice. Clara dropped the appeal. The media backlash was too much. But as Marcus hung up, a notification flashed. An unknown number. You won this round, but blood is thicker than law. Outside, a shadow moved near the tree line. The fight wasn't over. Yet as Marcus climbed the stairs to check on Lily, he found her asleep, Mr. Hops tucked under her arm, her nightlight casting a halo over her golden hair. He smoothed the blankets, his resolve hardening. Let them come. He'd built a fortress of love around these children, and love, as Clara would learn, was the one thing money couldn't buy, and bullets couldn't break. The first snow of winter had transformed Haven House into a scene from a storybook. Icicles glittered like diamonds from the eaves. The fields stretched pristine and untouched under the pale morning sun. And inside, the scent of cinnamon and pine mingled with the sound of Lily's giggles as she danced around the Christmas tree in her reindeer pajamas, her golden hair flying behind her, while Noah clapped his hands from his perch on Marcus's shoulders, the baby's delighted squeals of "Dada! Up! Up!" filling the room with a joy so profound it made Marcus's chest ache. This was life now, this warmth, this noise, this family. But beneath the surface, the text from the unknown number still gnawed at him like a splinter. Its threat, blood is thicker than law, lurking in the back of his mind, even as he lifted Noah higher, spinning him gently to make him laugh harder. The security system Ethan had installed hummed quietly in the background, its cameras sweeping the property every 30 seconds. But Marcus's instincts, honed by months of fighting for these children, refused to quiet. "Presents now," Lily begged, her eyes wide with excitement as she pointed to the stack of brightly wrapped boxes under the tree, and Marcus forced a smile, setting Noah down on the rug beside her. "One each," he conceded, ruffling her hair, but as she tore into a package with glee, his phone buzzed. Ethan. Movement at the east tree line. 2 figures, armed. The world narrowed to a single razor-sharp point. Marcus didn't hesitate. "Lilybug," he said, his voice carefully light. "Let's play the secret game, okay? Like we practiced." Lily froze, her smile fading into something far too solemn for a 5-year-old. But she nodded, scrambling to her feet and grabbing Noah's hand. "Hide and seek," she whispered, and Marcus's heart shattered even as he swept both children into his arms, carrying them swiftly to the panic room, hidden behind the bookshelf. The same one they'd used during the lab siege, now upgraded with a crib, toys, and a monitor linked to the security feeds. "Stay here until I say the magic word," he ordered, pressing a kiss to each of their foreheads. But as he turned to leave, Lily's small voice stopped him. "Daddy, you'll win, right?" The faith in her eyes was a weight and a weapon. "Always," he promised, sealing the door behind him just as the first window shattered downstairs. Glass crunched under heavy boots as Marcus moved silently through the hallway, the Glock cold in his grip. Ethan's voice crackled in his earpiece. 3 hostiles inside, 2 covering the exits, not amateurs. A shadow moved at the foot of the stairs, and Marcus fired without hesitation, the shot ringing out like a thunderclap as the intruder crumpled. 1 down. Shouts erupted from the kitchen, followed by the splintering of wood as the back door was kicked open. Marcus pivoted, squeezing off 2 more rounds, but the return fire forced him behind cover, bullets embedding in the wall inches from his head. "Marcus!" Ethan's voice was sharp over the comms. "They're heading upstairs, toward the kids." Like hell? Marcus took the steps 3 at a time, his pulse roaring in his ears. But as he reached the landing, a figure emerged from the nursery. Clara, her once perfect hair now wild, her designer coat smudged with dirt, her eyes manic as she leveled a pistol at his chest. "You stole my family," she spat, her finger tightening on the trigger. But Marcus was faster. His bullet grazed her shoulder, sending her staggering back with a scream. Behind her, another man lunged from the shadows, Robert Kane, his face twisted in a snarl, a syringe glinting in his hand. "You ruined us!" he roared. But Marcus dodged the needle, slamming his elbow into Kane's throat, just as Ethan burst through the front door, his team swarming the house like a well-oiled machine. It was over in seconds. Clara writhed on the floor, her blood staining the hardwood, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she glared up at Marcus. "They'll never be yours," she hissed. But Marcus didn't spare her a glance. He was already at the panic room, his hands shaking as he typed the code. The door swung open to reveal Lily, standing protectively in front of Noah's crib, a toy fire truck raised like a weapon. "I protected him," she whispered, and Marcus fell to his knees, pulling them both into his arms, his voice breaking. "You're the bravest girl in the world." Outside, sirens wailed as the police swarmed the property, their flashing lights painting the snow in streaks of red and blue. Clara and Kane were dragged away in cuffs, their threats fading into the winter air, but Marcus barely noticed. His world was here, in this room, with Lily's arms around his neck and Noah's sleepy head nestled against his shoulder. They were safe. The sun shone brightly over the grand opening of Noah's Hope Center, its glass walls gleaming as children's laughter spilled into the courtyard. Lily, now 6 and sporting a missing front tooth, proudly cut the ribbon with oversized scissors, her pink dress fluttering in the breeze, while Noah, toddling steadily on chubby legs, clung to Marcus's pant leg. Reporters snapped photos, but Marcus only had eyes for his daughter as she turned to the crowd and announced, "This is for kids like me and Noah who need a hero." That night, as Marcus tucked them into bed in their new home, a sprawling estate with a treehouse and a pond, Lily handed him a crumpled drawing, their family under a rainbow, with Noah's Hope scrawled in wobbly letters. "We're the happy ending," she declared, and Marcus kissed her forehead, his heart full. Downstairs, the legal adoption papers sat framed on the mantel, their names forever linked, Marcus, Lily, and Noah Carter. Outside, the stars burned bright, but inside, the fire crackled, a beacon of warmth, of love, of a promise kept.